I wanted to go back to the realism versus pessimism thing. Pessimism versus optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you could take. I wanna just propose an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is being realistic? Being realistic is following what the objective, like, common consensus is on what you can and what you can't achieve.
Yeah.
So the realistic path,
Mm-hmm.
let's assume you have two paths. The realistic path is to do well in school, in high school, get a higher education, so go to uni.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're done with uni, get a job. That's the realistic path. Like,
Yeah.
being realistic, that's what you do. Unrealistic is where all of the insanely successful people are.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping out of Harvard to make Facebook, for example, or starting Amazon in your garage, or starting Apple in your garage. All of these things are things that weren't realistic. They're delusionally optimistic. They're not. The consequences are far greater, and society perceives it as far more probable than the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think we always run into, because when
Yeah.
you feel alone, or
Mhm.
when you feel like you're the only person that believes it, you don't want to do it, because you can only verify whether your belief or your knowledge is true by going to other people.
Yeah, that's
Right?
so true.
But when you really believe in something, like I've had this with HENOSIS, when you really believe in something,
Mhm.
then regardless of how many people tell you that it's not going to work, or that it needs to be less ambitious, or that blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
if you really dedicate your time and you make sure that your mindset is stuck on it, you will achieve it if you
Yeah.
just work hard enough. And
Yeah.
that's been the case so many times.
So every time I propose an idea, it's like really, really small, right? And maybe this is something I need to work on, and probably what a lot of people need to work on. But I feel like if the reactions aren't initially like, "Whoa, that's such a good idea!" Like, "Whoa, that's so
You feel
cool,"
like,
you feel like, "Whoa, wait, like maybe this just
maybe it
isn't
wasn't that
something."
good of a bet.
Yeah, maybe exactly. Maybe it wasn't that good of an idea. Like, maybe this isn't something I should dedicate my time to.
But the thing is, people don't know what it, like, that's the thing. Like, even when I explain an idea to you,
Yeah.
what you understand from the idea that I communicate is between how I communicate my idea
Mm-hmm.
and how you interpret my idea.
Yeah.
How you interpret what I communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And there's so many layers
So
of
many
bias.
layers of bias.
So many layers of
that-
just
What I explain
Yeah.
is probably not what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
So you saying, "Oh, that doesn't sound like a nice idea," that can be on a completely other idea to the idea that I have.
Yeah, because in my brain, it's gone through so many filters of you needing to find the correct words,
Exactly.
me needing to understand the words, me needing to process
Exactly.
the words
And the
visually
meaning-
in my
And the
brain.
meaning that you attribute to words
Yeah.
are ever so slightly different to the meaning that I attribute to them.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, the idea that I propose to you is not the same idea that your understanding of that idea is
Mhm.
not the idea that I have. Not
Mhm.
exactly. And to align visions, that's something that just confuses the hell out of me. I just don't get it.
Yeah,
Like,
but you
but
know.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get when visions are aligned, but you know when they're aligned.
Yeah.
Like when I explained HENOSIS to David over the phone, this was in like early September.
Mhm.
It was when it first came to my mind, and I started developing it a little. I called David and I'm like, "Bro, I have this sick idea. I want to do this. I was inspired by a good friend of mine for the name. This is sick. I want to do it." And I explained it, and it seemed like, David, tell them what it seemed like, bro.
I don't know. It seemed a bit off.
It seemed a bit off, but regardless of the fact that it seemed a bit off, David recognized my passion for it. David recognized that I was like excited about it, and you recognized that it could have potential.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not sure.
No, it sounded like it had potential, but
Yeah.
So
So
like something different.
yeah. So as opposed to David just saying, that could use a little work, he said, "Bro, it sounds like a sick idea. Get me on it as soon as you have it started."
Mhm. I mean, like even with us, I've known you for like
Yeah.
5 years, 6 years,
I think
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years. And there's been so many times where you have an idea, or I have an idea, usually you, and you pitch it to me. Sometimes I have no idea what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? But just because I know, like, you know people and you know their dedication to things, and just because I know you, I'm like, that sounds sick, go, like, how can I help, you know? Same thing with HENOSIS, same thing with, like, just
Like these projects.
everything. Sometimes they don't, like, pull through,
Yeah.
sometimes they do, and, like, when they do, it's so satisfying.
It's so,
Because
yeah.
you believed in it from the start, and you saw it grow from like a tiny
Yeah.
little bud into
From
like
a baby,
such
yeah,
like
exactly. And
yeah, it's your baby.
yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and it's so nice to have people involved in that, and it's so nice to like make people adopt my baby, basically.
Yeah.
Like hypothetically, like that has, like that's basically what's happening.